Good morning and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Truth expert and whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Carlos, how are you?
I'm doing great. I always look forward to our show. It's a little weird because we had a holiday yesterday, so it feels like today's Monday rather than Tuesday, right?
It
So
does feel like Monday. Yeah. So I guess it's going to be a really short week. That's
it
awesome.
is always great. And folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the show. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.today, where you can get content, all of our social media links, and all that good stuff there. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show. But let me rewind a little bit. We've been talking about finances, we've been talking about family finances, and so forth. But today we're going to focus on a very key subject, which is our teens, right? So today's show is teaching teens about money and those habits that are going to last a lifetime. So, what do you say we get started?
Let's do it. One of my favorite subjects.
So, let's start with why is it important to start teaching teens about money very early?
It's the things that we grow up knowing. That's kind of our truth. It's hard to unlearn things as adults or even to learn something. Like a language you speak as a child is a language that it comes easy to you later in life or relearning it, right? If you haven't been immersed. And money's the same. It's like what you know about money, what you know to be true, that's like your money truth. And that's always going to stay with you. So anything that we can do to help our kids and our teenagers as they start to get their own money, manage their own money, anything we can do in the comfort and the safety of being in our household is a good thing because they'll make little mistakes. We're going to make mistakes, right? They're going to make little kid-sized mistakes rather than the grown-up mistakes that sometimes take months or years to recover from. So we have an opportunity here to work with them and help them learn the right ways to do things.
What do you think are some financial lessons that most teens kind of miss out on today? I mean, it's changed, right, from way back when we grew up to now.
Yeah. Well, there's so much about money. There's earning and spending and managing and saving and protecting. There's all different aspects of money. But I think the big thing when we're thinking about the genre of teenagers is teenagers, they don't understand danger and they live for today. They
Yeah.
they live for today. They are so present, right? But there's really no tomorrow, and it really takes a lot of work for them to think beyond this week or this weekend where they're going to get sushi, right? What's going to happen next year or the year after. So even like planning for career and college and things like that, it's like, oh my goodness, 21 and 22-year-olds are so old. I don't want to go to school. It's going to be years I'll be there. But on the other side, we know it goes like that, right? But if you remember as a teenager, everything took so long. The semester was so long, the summer was so long, all of that. So I think the big thing in the context of finances is if they're living for today, they're not planning for tomorrow. Like, should I save money for next week or next year or well, even longer term? And if I did, what would that be for? That's just like so far away. I remember going to the dentist. Larry and I were just married, didn't have kids yet. So we were probably, mid 20s or something like that. And I remember going to the dentist and looking at the wall. He had a family portrait and he was probably mid 30s and they had three little kids. So it was the mom, the dad, kid number one, kid number two, kid number three. And I thought, that's a giant family. And these guys are so old. Because at that point, 10 years out, somebody who was living a life that far out just seemed like an eternity from where we were in our lives as newlyweds. So as teenagers, it's even more so. You think, oh, these people that already have a job and they already have a house or a place to live anyway, and they're adulting is like that's so far removed when you're 16, 17, 18. For most people, not all, but for most people, it's like it's a whole other world.
And it's funny because we've talked about this before. Teenagers think that they know everything, right? They can handle their own finances, they can take care of themselves, and all of that good stuff. And it's always a very touchy subject, especially when it comes to tantrums or tempers. That is like I know better than dad or mom or whatever. So how can parents or even guardians approach these kind of conversations with confidence?
Well, I actually wrote a book on that. I wrote a book on that years ago called Teen Cash. And it goes through that. And what I do is I talk about the distinction, the truth that teenagers know. They're right, and they're often wrong, never in doubt, right? But they're right. But they have a perspective. And then as adults, we have a perspective and maybe a little bit more experience when it comes to money stuff. And so sometimes those bump up against each other. We're both accurate and we're both interpreting the facts and our experience the way that we know it to be true. But there's differences in how we approach those things. A good exercise, a visual for that would be if you and I were standing back to back in the middle of a room and you asked me what I could see. I'd say, well, I see, some sofas and I see some pictures on the wall and some drapes and a big window with trees outside. But you're in the same room, but you're facing the other way. And you say, well, I don't see that. What I see is a table and some chairs, and there's no art on the wall over here. We're seeing different things, but we're in the same room and we're both describing our experience and our observation. We're both correct, but we have a different perspective. We're looking from a different angle. And it's the same with teenagers. They have a perspective. Life experience isn't quite what parents, might have had because we've earned money a little longer. We've saved money. We've had to save up and have all those surprise expenses that we've talked about over the months. But they haven't had that experience. So their perspective is accurate, but it's not our perspective. So finding a way to have a conversation about that. You start with the differences. I see it this way. You might see it that way. Is that true? And just hearing their perspective, not making them wrong, not judging what they see, just recognizing they're looking from a different perspective at a different wall in the room. Make sense?
Absolutely. And that's a great example. Never thought about it that way too, but you're right. I mean, even just that simple exercise just can open up that line of communication, which I think would be a huge, huge tool to have, folks. So if you're listening, make sure you took that down, practice that exercise, and also welcome to you guys just joining. Make sure that you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. We are talking about our teens and how we can help them with habits last a lifetime regarding money, period. So let's get back to some more questions. So what key concepts should teens understand about budgeting, saving, and even spending?
Yeah, I think the big thing is allocation of income. So it's not just allocation of outgo. That's going to happen, right? We have expenses. You got to pay the bills and pay them on time. A lot of us have learned you pay them late, it costs more. Or you pay them late, you get in trouble, right? If you don't pay them all, they come take your car away if you don't pay your car bill. And so they haven't had that experience yet. But I think the allocation of income is even more important. So when money comes in and young people are starting to earn money, it's like, wow, I got a paycheck. Woohoo, I can go shopping or go to the mall or go to the movies or, go blow it on my friends, whatever, buy a new outfit. So it's a matter of allocating that because there are expenses that we need for right now. That's our monthly expenses and our fun money and all of that. And there's a lot of fun money for teenagers, right? They're very active and social usually.
Mhm.
And then there's soon money I'm going to need in the next months coming up. There's an expense coming up or later. So now, soon, and later. And I think the sooner teenagers or any young adults that are just starting to earn, maybe they've already gone through college, they haven't had a job, and now they finally get their job, might be beyond teens. But it's allocating the money as it comes in. What is this dollar for that I just earned? Is it to pay tax? Because that's going to happen. And all those other initials on your paycheck that are missing, right? Because you earn $200, you don't have a check for $200. 200 minus all that stuff, all the initials on your pay stub. And so whatever you're going to have, allocating it, what do I need for now? How much do I have for fun? How much do I have for long-term savings for way down the road? And something that I'm saving up for, my car, my first place, a big trip I'm going to take, something like that. So allocation of income, I would say, would be the big one for young people with their first income to think about.
That kind of leads us into kind of a segue into how can parents introduce, like when you start banking, how can we introduce them to debit cards or digital payment tools for that matter?
Yeah, and credit is always a big subject parents ask me about with young adults and teenagers. When do I give them a credit card? uh-oh, I don't want them to get in trouble. Well, I think you should start sooner than later. I think before high school, there should be a credit line for a child and teach them how to use it responsibly, and establish that credit score, that credit reporting. That's going to help them when they get their first apartment or go to get their first car and they need credit. And sometimes you need a couple of years of credit. So you can get cards as parents. You can get cards that you add your children to, and their line of credit is going to be giant. It's going to be like $300 or $500. So they can't go beyond that. But it gives them a chance to establish credit, but learn how to responsibly use it. Go spend $50 at your night out or whatever it's going to be, and then pay it off over a couple of months. And then use it again and then pay it off. Or if you need emergency money. I think that's a big deal. And then also use that bank account for savings. Every time you earn it, something should go in that savings account, which is really savings. It's not like put it in and then rob it when you want it again. Put it in, leave it there.
So I think this next question I'm going to ask, it's actually more directed for teens, but more than likely parents have to share this with their teens. And the question I wanted to ask you was, how do you help these teenagers set these short, long-term financial goals? Because remember, a lot of them also are in that squirrel moment, like, this looks great, this shiny object over here, or yeah, exactly. So how can you help with good strategies for encouraging this smart financial, habits?
That's a great question. I think good goal setting, good sound goal setting. And it's amazing to me how many adults and even older folks don't really know how to properly set a goal. A proper goal has four elements, four elements. It has a name. It has a date by which it will be achieved. It has a specific way to measure. So if it's money, you can measure, I need $500 for that, or I need $3,000 for that. If it's a goal, like how many pull-ups I'm going to do, is like 25 pull-ups in 1 minute, whatever it is, that would be a lot. For me, that sounds like a lot of pull-ups. But whatever, you want it to be measurable. And with money, those goals are pretty easy because it's a dollar amount. But the fourth element of a proper goal is the outcome. What's going to show up in your life? How are you feeling? What are you thinking having achieved this goal? And some people don't naturally plan. They don't naturally have the ability to see the future. It's like the outcome is going to be so nice when I move into my own place. It's going to be so nice when I get in my car and I have that new car smell and it's mine, whatever those things are. It's hard to imagine your future. And for, I think, half the people that I work with, until they learn how to properly set a goal and imagine the future, it's not natural for them. They have to learn to do that. So we can work with young people or anyone in our life, but our teens and our young adults, to say, have a name for the goal, have a date, have a dollar amount, and then the outcome. How do you feel? What do you think having achieved it? And when that's done, then you can set goals in every area. I have a tool that I use. It's a quality of life tool, but it's actually it's a life roadmap. And it's an ability to help people see what their goals are. And then how am I going to achieve it? What do I need to do between now and a year from now when I plan on doing 10 pull-ups? What do I have to do every week or every day to be able to achieve that goal on time in a year? And if I'm saving up $2,000 over the year for my great vacation next year, I'm going to go take a trip and go see Aunt Nelda, whatever it is. How much do I need to save every month to have $2,000 by a year from now? Right? It's a specific goal. Then you work backwards and you know what you need to do in between. And then you just do it. It's a roadmap, right? Just do it. So pretty simple, not always easy, because there's a discipline to it. You have to say no to some things to be able to say yes to other things. And some people don't like to say no, especially to themselves. So,
and I think of the word discipline with teenagers. Yeah, I can see a little battle going on in there as well too, right? So it's just,
yeah, discipline is learned. Some people learn real fast. They go to boot camp, they learn real fast discipline. Some people go to a very strict Ivy League or some very strict college. Boy, you got to get in there, get your grades, get your tutors, whatever it takes. You got to get it done. Other people have a little more opportunity at home to learn that. Every Saturday morning, we pick weeds and we sweep the patio and we clean house, whatever it is. This is what we do. Kids that grew up with music skills or grew up with sports know that the discipline of athletes, right? They have to do their training. They have to show up. They have to run. They have to do their practice a couple nights a week, whatever it is. Even Little League, there's a discipline. And a good coach will teach you, you show up on time, you do the drills, you have a good attitude, you have sportsmanship. Even if you lose, you shake their hands. Those are disciplines that can be learned, and lots of ways that young people can learn those disciplines.
Folks, if you are just joining us, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show, as this is a great subject for teens, helping them budget, helping them learn about finances. Follow Judy at judycopenbarger.today. You can find all of her social media links there as well too. So we're in the middle of this, and I know we've talked about, the credit cards, we talked about the spending, the budgeting, and all of that. But one key thing that you've always brought up in our conversations is also, what role does giving or charitable spending play in developing good money values specifically for our teens?
I think it's important even when we're dealing with little kids. So even toddlers, when they first get money, they get an allowance or they're earning money as a child. I think it's important for not all the money to go to me, 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 me. So you have some children that are naturally me, 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 and it's not that they're selfish. They're just doing what children do. They have to survive.
Right.
So if there's food, I need to eat it, right? If there's something, I need to get it. That toy is mine. The toddler creed. It's mine. I saw it first, right? So there's that natural tendency for some people, even as small kids, to kind of hoard. And it's like, it's mine. I need to save it. I need to stash it. I need to kind of hoard it. And then other children will give it all away. If I have it, I don't care. I just want to give it to Sally. I want to give it to my friends. I want to give it away. So one thing that we can do, even with small children, teenagers included, is we can teach them that part of it should be for you, part of it should be for someone else, and part of it should be for later. Like it's for you, maybe your family, but for later. So it doesn't even exist. But there's this element of giving. So part of it leaves the household, and as a child, their household's, about this big. But
Mhm.
it's like we should always do something for someone else, but don't forget to do something for you too. And so we can help even little kids balance that. Every time they earn $10 for their birthday gift, or they did chores or babysat or walk dogs or whatever, they have $10. What if $1 went to outside the household? It was doing something nice for somebody else, or take it to the offering at church, or when they have that, send the things to the poor people, the boxes at Christmas time.
Right.
Christmas boxes, why not buy some toys to put in there for some kids that don't have enough toys? And teach them to kind of be charitable, and you model that. They're going to learn more from watching you than what you tell them. And then that gives us, if you have $10, now there's 9. And so 3 can be for me, 3 can be for someone else, and 3 could be for later, for savings. Take it to the bank, right? So that would be a good kind of start. You just take percentages. And I talk about that a lot in Teen Cash in the books that I've created, how to do that with even small children. By teens, they can master this. They have their own accounts. Maybe they have a Roth IRA. They have some savings going. They have, maybe they're thinking about school money, and maybe even earning money. But even little kids, they get money for Christmas. They get money for Easter. They can do little chores. And some kids have a lot of money by high school. It's amazing if they really get this discipline into managing their own money as a child, which we get to facilitate. They can really be well on their way to managing well.
Awesome, folks. And we are at the tail end of our show, and you guys know what that means. It's our Teen Money Truth Challenge. And you know what? It always catches up because we are in such an intense subject, and it's like, next thing you know, it's like, hey, time flies when you're having fun, right? So what do you got for us?
Time for the challenge. Yeah.
Yep.
So grab a young person, grab a young adult, grab a teenager in your life, whether it's your kids, grandkids, neighbors' kids, people you're mentoring, the kids on your team that you're coaching, whatever, and have a little talk about money, and talk about the basic elements: earning money, spending money, which that's the whole spending plan, right? The budgeting there, earning and spending, and then managing. How do you grow and protect your money? What can you be thinking about beyond today, beyond just, what do I need today and living for today? And grab a young person and talk about those things. Talk about how far ahead of all their peers they can be, and how far ahead they can be in their own lives to not worry about stressing about making the ends meet and owing money and being in debt and all of that. How they can just have money be a joy and not a stressor in their life. and grab one of those teens and work with them, help them set some goals. That's your challenge.
All right, folks, you heard the challenge, and this is a real challenge because it won't take much for you to find a teenager somewhere that they can benefit from all of this as well, too. Thank you guys for joining us today. Make sure that you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. We are here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. with the replays on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And if there's a subject that you would like Judy to address or talk about, also please drop us a message on their social media, and we'll make sure that Judy addresses it as well. Judy, any last party words?
Nope. Just enjoy your day. Enjoy this season. It's a wonderful time of year. God bless.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.